Hey, everybody. Great to see everybody here. That was not the right intro video, but that's okay because I don't know what I'm doing when Michelle's not around, but good to see everybody here. Michelle's a bit under the weather. So I am here by myself doing an AMA. But before we get to that, I want to talk about a couple of things that have been going on the last couple of days that are just bonkers. Bonkers number one is that Donald Trump has decided that he is going to war by himself. He's not going to war by himself. On the one hand, he's threatening NATO. On the other hand, he's saying that we can go it alone. We don't need help from anybody. And, you know, it's like crazy train with him. I have come to the conclusion as to what's going on here. And I think it merits talking about this a little bit. I don't know why other people are not really focusing on this, but we at Mayday are going to focus on this today. And that is basically the fact that Trump is going after NATO for two reasons. One, the obvious reason, he absolutely fundamentally does whatever Vladimir Putin wants, and Putin has wanted NATO dead for the last, I don't know, since the day he was born. The Soviet Union prior to him wanted it from the day he was born. But the other reason that Trump is doing this, and I think it's just, it really merits talking about, is that he is effectively, he doesn't have another tool anymore for shaking down foreign countries. And if you want to know what I'm talking about, in a very kind of crazy late night diatribe on Sunday night, he lashed out at the criminal justice system several times, and one of them, he accused the Supreme Court of undermining his authority on tariffs. Now, earlier, he had done an interview on Sunday with the Financial Times where he threatened that NATO could, quote, face a very bad future if its members refuse to help the United States reopen the Strait of Hormuz after Iran disrupted shipping there. Did Iran disrupt shipping there? Because Donald Trump decided to launch an unprovoked war against Iran and never thought about the fact that, of course, Iran would shut down the Strait of Hormuz. It's their leverage to make gas prices go up and the economy tank in the United States in retaliation for Trump doing this. So, of course, not a surprise. Then on Sunday, aboard Air Force One that same day, he was whining that, and I'm going to quote here, "We're always there for NATO. We're helping them with Ukraine. Doesn't affect us, but we've helped them. It'd be interesting to see what country wouldn't help us with a very small endeavor, which is just keeping the straits open." Now, of course, this is not a very small endeavor at all. It's a big problem, which is, of course, that the Straits of Hormuz is landmined or mined by Iran at the moment. So, of course, nobody wants to send their ships there. But why is Trump going after the Supreme Court at the same time that he is talking about getting rid of NATO? And the reason for that is because it used to be that he would shake down countries all over the world with tariffs. And he effectively said that he was going to get whatever he wanted out of these countries, or else he was going to tariff the hell out of them and prevent them from entering the American market. The Supreme Court said he couldn't do that by himself. So all of a sudden, Trump is furious at the Supreme Court. That's why he's going after the Supreme Court so much, and completely, people are like, why is he doing this? This is so unprovoked. Now you know why. So the only thing that he's got left, literally the only thing that he's got left, is to try to tell these countries in Europe that he's going to pull the United States out of NATO if they don't help him with Iran, and use that as an excuse to effectively shake them down again. This is all about the grift, friends. This is all he is about. This is about the grift that he's trying to get from European governments. God only knows how much money he expects to be put into his crypto fund that is being run by Steve Witkoff's son at the moment. The whole thing is about the grift. The oldest alliance in modern history, the alliance that has kept the Pax Americana safe for 80 years, is being held hostage because of Donald Trump's grift. And he's using this war in Iran to effectively threaten NATO that if they don't all of a sudden put their navies at risk by reopening the Strait of Hormuz, which again was only shut down because he wanted it shut down, because he decided to invade Iran without a plan, that all of a sudden he was now going to come after them and he's going to take away effectively the United States being in NATO. I mean, that's what he's threatening. And if you want to know how much this is benefiting his good friend Vladimir Putin, well, the country that is thrilled at this right now is Russia, because at the same time that Trump is doing this, the United States 2 days ago just decided that they were going to relieve Russia of sanctions with their oil at sea. So if you're oil that is floating in the sea right now and you're on a Russian carrier, you're no longer bound by sanctions. They're saying this is just for a month. Don't believe it. This is permanent. I think it's going to be permanent. And so the whole thing is a scam. The whole thing is just another example of Trump trying to shake down, on the one hand, our European allies and our Canadian allies, and on the other hand, helping his friend Vladimir Putin evade sanctions. All of a sudden, Russian oil, which the Russians were selling at a massive discount, massive discount to China and to India, they're not going to be selling at a discount anymore. Suddenly that oil is very valuable. John Winkler, you said it's only for 30 days. That's what they're saying. Don't believe it. I promise you it's going to be for longer than 30 days. I mean, 30 days was just a taste to get us not to freak out. And then suddenly they're going to say, well, you know what? Oil is really high right now, so we need the price of oil to come down. So therefore, we're going to relieve them of sanctions longer and longer. And that's how it's going to happen. And that is what is going to be. Now, I also remembered, as I'm looking at myself here, that it's St. Patrick's Day. And for some reason, I'm wearing red, which is like the second worst color to wear after orange. So I apologize to all my Irish friends. Totally inexcusable. I should have worn something green. But anyway, great to see everybody here. Does anybody here have any questions? Jared Kushner. Didn't Jared Kushner just get $5 billion? No. So Jared Kushner, and this is also important to note, Jared Kushner is out there pounding the pavement for $5 billion. And, you know, the part that I think is interesting is in late 2024, shortly after Trump regained the White House in December of 24, so just a few weeks before the inauguration, Kushner told a podcaster that he would not raise any money for his equity fund, Affinity Partners, while Trump was in the White House. And this is what he said, this is a direct quote: "We don't have to raise capital for the next 4 years." And he also promised to, and I quote, "preemptively try to avoid any conflicts." Well, he didn't really try hard enough, because in recent weeks, he's been pounding the pavement all over the world, looking for money while serving as the nation's de facto Secretary of State. So Jared also is the person that was negotiating with the Iranians and then arbitrarily said, I think we're done negotiating here. And then literally a day or two later, Trump decided to go to war. At the same time that Jared was, quote unquote, negotiating with the Iranians, Mohammed bin Salman, who is the crown of Saudi Arabia, the de facto leader of Saudi Arabia, was the guy who was whispering in Jared's ear that we should attack Iran. And Mohammed bin Salman is also the person who overruled the sovereign wealth fund for Saudi Arabia to give Jared Kushner $2 billion when Jared left the White House in 2020 the first time. So this is all part of the grift. Our foreign policy, our safety is being held hostage by these grifters who are using the might of the United States military to go over, you know, anything that needs to happen in order to get rich themselves. It is just absolutely stunning. And if this were anywhere else in the world, this would be the biggest problem of all time, and it would be a huge scandal. But we are so immune to scandal with this administration now that, you know, it's just the way it is. That's what we do. So, you know, it's pretty crazy. Thoughts on Joe Kent quitting and giving the war the middle finger, and does that impact Tulsi? So I would say this about Joe Kent. You could both agree with what Joe Kent did and understand that Joe Kent is a horrible, horrible racist. I mean, the man literally has a tattoo and an anti-Semite. He literally has a tattoo of a Panzer, like the Panzer divisions, the tanks that the Nazis used, somewhere on his body. He did this, and what's interesting is that the White House put out a statement, or they didn't put out a statement, sorry, sources close to the White House said, well, it's not a big deal because he was a leaker. He's been leaking for months. Really? Really? The director of national intelligence kept somebody in place who was leaking for months? That's interesting. Why would they allow somebody who's been leaking for months to continue to work in counterintelligence? The guy was literally running counterintelligence at the department, at the DNI, right? She was the director of national intelligence. So why was that happening? Joe Kent is, don't praise Joe Kent. I mean, even a broken clock is right twice a day. I'm, it's nice that he resigned, but I also want to be very clear that the guy's a virulent anti-Semite and should never have been working in government in the first place, ever. In terms of Tulsi Gabbard, I mean, it's kind of fascinating that Tulsi Gabbard put out a statement shortly after Kent resigned saying the president gets to determine what threats exist, and he's determined that Iran was a threat, so therefore, off to war we go. This is the same Tulsi Gabbard who criticized Trump 4 years ago for making noise about attacking Iran and how awful this is. And if you remember, she ran for president basically saying that she was going to stop foreign wars and then we should never go to war against Iran. This is the same woman who's been, whether she is a useful idiot of Vladimir Putin or whether she is knowingly in cahoots with the Russians. But I mean, what's fascinating is she used to sub in for Tucker Carlson on Fox News when Tucker was on Fox because they agreed so much on foreign intervention and how the United States should not be interfering in all of these wars. Now, Tucker's gone one way. Tucker's gone totally anti-war. And Tulsi's gone a different way because she got the brass ring. She got access to all of our national intelligence. I am deeply worried about what she's doing with that national intelligence. I mean, I firmly believe that this woman would sell us out to the Russians like that. So, I am very, very, very worried and about that. Let's see. I absolutely love your past interviews on CNN. We need you back in the spotlight. I appreciate that. I think I'm banned from CNN after I went nuts on Scott Jennings and how CNN should not be using somebody like that who's a pathological liar on their network and how it demeans them as a network. And I have not been invited back ever since. But I'm on MS Now all the time. I was there yesterday. And I'll be back there again as soon as I come back from my trip. I'm off to Asia on Friday. I'm going to Japan and South Korea, but when I'm back, I will be back, hopefully on MS Now. So, but CNN, I think my days at CNN are over because I decided that I was going to tell the truth, which is that I think Scott Jennings is not worthy of being on that network, and they demean themselves by putting them on there. You wonder how many, let's see, Billy Kid 73, you wonder how many will resign. I don't think as many as you would think, because people have a tendency to justify their own behavior when they get a big job. And the reality is, I think that they are going to just justify that they're doing the right thing. I mean, it's fascinating. If Tulsi Gabbard is working for this administration, if J.D. Vance is defending Trump on this Iran thing, despite the fact that both of them were so prolific consistently in talking about how we don't need any more foreign wars and no more Middle East adventures. And they're both veterans. I mean, these are both people who served, and they both built their entire career in saying that they wouldn't do that anymore. And yet, here we are, and they've all bent the knee to Donald Trump. So it's just fascinating to me as to, what goes on and what they're doing. And it's kind of crazy. John Winkler, how far will Trump go to save face? A cornered, hurt animal is a threat. Would he use tactical nukes? I mean, that sounds nuts, doesn't it? But yet it's not nuts. It's not nuts. Henry Kissinger wanted to use tactical nukes in Vietnam to end the war. So this is not necessarily a new theory. And I don't necessarily think that that's a crazy thought. I don't know. But I mean, if Donald Trump deploys tactical nukes, then we're living in just a whole new, obviously I don't need, it's fairly obvious, a whole new world. And a whole new world that is going to look very different from anything that happened from 1945 to the day before he uses tactical nukes. I don't know what he's going to do. I mean, there are rumors today that Trump is talking about reopening the Straits of Hormuz, that he's going to send warships to reopen the Straits of Hormuz. You guys, if we send our Navy to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, we're at war. I mean, that's not a joke. Because if you look at the Straits of Hormuz and you see what's on the other side of the Strait of Hormuz, it is mountainous. You have Iran, you've got all the Gulf states. And the truth of the matter is that you have a little sliver of Iraq there. It's going to make the Iraq war look like a garden party. And that's before he's talking about sending, I assume, our Navy to take over Cuba. I mean, Cuba's an island, so we're going to have to somehow get over there too. This is just, I keep thinking you can't tempt fate over and over and over again, whether in Venezuela or Cuba or Iran, and not think that it's not going to come back to bite us here in the homeland. I mean, we are a country of 350 million people, and something bad's going to happen. It just is, because we're not acting like good global citizens. We're acting like bullies. We're acting like, we're just acting like lawless pirates. I don't know what else to say. I mean, I am by no means am I a fan of the Iranian regime. They are awful in every way. But what's happening now is we have not gotten rid of them. There's not going to be regime change in Iran. And at the rate things are going, all we're doing is radicalizing them even more. We have thrown the kitchen sink at them, and they will have survived, so that they will understand there's really nothing more that we could do to them short of a tactical nuke. And if that's the case, think about this. It's hard to have a tactical nuke in Iran and not have it affect the rest of the Gulf. Our allies, Saudi Arabia, our allies, the UAE, our troops stationed in Iraq in the Green Zone and elsewhere. I mean, you're talking about Turkey, for that matter, the Caucasus. Think about geographically where Iran is and what that would mean to drop a tactical nuke in Iran. Not to mention the 90 million civilians who are living in Iran who do not deserve this, who hate their own regime and would love nothing more than freedom to live there. And how are you going to do that? By deploying a tactical nuke? I would say that if you want to see the price of oil spike, that would happen. I mean, a tactical nuke would make the price of oil just go through the roof to the point where it would make the Great Recession, probably the Great Depression, look like a garden party economically, because you would make so much of that uninhabitable that you would be giving Vladimir Putin the favor of his life, because suddenly Russian oil and our own oil here becomes that much more profitable. On the other hand, you can't just all of a sudden write off the entire Middle East and the Gulf and say, you know what, that's it. We're not going to be able to access your oil now because we've dropped a tactical nuke. So could we sue him for HIPAA violations? Well, if we're going to sue him for something. I know, Julie, I think we're going to need a damn lot of therapy for a good while. I think our nation needs therapy. You guys, we saw what he was capable of with COVID. I mean, over 1 million people dead in 2020. And then we decided 4 years later, we're going to come back for more. What is wrong with us? What is wrong with us? It is just astonishing. It's crazy. So I don't know. It's just I don't know. It's an insane kind of scenario we're living in right now. And that's, I don't know if anybody has any more. I just wanted to hop on for a quick minute to do an AMA, not to stick around that much longer. This right here is therapy. Well, I'm glad for that. That's wonderful. And I hope you guys continue to have that kind of therapy while I'm gone. I am, just so you know, tomorrow, our friends at Blue Amp are doing a 12-hour marathon over on Substack. So if you want to see me, I'm going to be on at 1 p.m. with Cliff Schechter from 1 to 2 Eastern with him tomorrow on Substack. And then Thursday, we've got Pax Americana with Olga and me. And then Friday, I think I'm flying out on Friday, but maybe we'll do a pre-tape with Jeff Jarvis and Michelle and me for our media show. And then I'm gone for 2 weeks. Maybe I'll pipe in from somewhere in Tokyo, or wherever I'm going to be, and show you guys around. Hopefully I'll go see Punch the Monkey. And what's the latest news on Punch, Kevin? I don't have any updates on Punch. My son and I are desperately trying to persuade my husband to do it, but I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do it because, as I said, I think you have to go outside of Tokyo, and it's a whole day thing. And I don't think we have that much time in Tokyo to spend a day seeing Punch. If we were there for like 2 weeks straight just in Tokyo, I'd say we go see Punch, but we're tooling all around the country. We're going to go to Osaka, and we're going to go to Kyoto. We're going to go to Hiroshima, speaking of nuclear weapons, and we're going to go to other places that I can't think of at the top of my head, obviously Tokyo. And then we are off to Seoul for 3 days. And then back here. And hopefully the TSA lines are not going to be awful. I'm actually kind of worried about getting through TSA because I think the lines are so bad. So I don't know how much earlier we're going to have to get to the airport, but it's going to be awful. Punch for president. Can't be worse than that. Can't be worse than that. What else? Hey, everybody. I like that. Exactly. How do we think this is going to end with Trump? I'd love to hear from people. Like, I think MAGA's falling apart. I think that they are totally imploding on themselves. They all hate each other. They're all fighting with each other. Megyn Kelly's calling Mark Levin micro penis. He's calling her deranged. Like, it's all crazy train down there. So it's kind of fascinating what's happening. And then I think after they lose in November, and they will lose, they are going to just turn on each other because they're going to be so pissed off about what's going on. Just insane. Wait a second. You taught English in Takasaki. Well, tell me where to go. If you've taught English in Japan, give me some good restaurant recommendations. The end of Doctor Strangelove is how it ends. I hope not, but maybe. You know what? Don't hope for that to happen, because JD Vance is worse than Donald Trump, and he can run twice more, whereas Trump cannot. So that's a problem. We don't want JD Vance in office at the age of 43 or however old he is. Yeah, it's interesting that you say this. They will have to snap back to reality when we win. I'm a little worried about whether we're going to snap back to reality when we win. I'm a little worried that if we win, we're not going to be doing all the things that we need to be doing, like cleaning house here in a big way. I mean, there's just going to be 2 years, and I don't know if Jeffries and Schumer are up for that. I mean, they're just consistently like not meeting the mark. So I don't know. I think it's going to be very interesting to see what Democrats do and how they behave if we win. We need to get the Senate back, not just the House, because we need to make sure that there's no more justices that these people approach. My fear is that if we win the Senate, that all of a sudden you're going to see either Clarence Thomas or Sam Alito or somebody like that resign so they can get somebody, push somebody new through. And that would be terrifying. So we need to do everything we can to gum up those works as much as and as quickly as possible. Otherwise it's going to be a disaster. And I would say that if one of them resigns or drops dead after Democrats take control of the Senate, I don't care if it's 2 years before the next presidential election. I hope to God that Democrats give the same treatment to Donald Trump that Mitch McConnell gave to Barack Obama and say, no, not until the next election. Can't do it. Vance, damn, at least it's not Shorty Mike, right? Well, he is second in line. So if it's not Vance, if something happens to Vance, it'll be Mike Johnson, which is how Gerald Ford first became president. That would be devastating. And by the way, how about Trump yesterday with that stupid, crazy decision to talk about the private medical history of one of the members of the Republican conference? I mean, he's such an asshole. It is just unbelievable. Insane. Fetterman might officially become MAGA after 2026. I'm actually worried about that. I'm worried that Fetterman actually may switch parties. I really am. And I think Fetterman understands he'd lose in a Democratic primary. So I think the only way he thinks he's going to survive is if he wins. Who knows? So if he switches parties and runs as a Republican, and maybe he thinks he'll win as a Republican, who knows? He's just, I don't know. I don't think Moskowitz will. Moskowitz is not going to become a Republican. But I think that Fetterman might, which would be crazy. Try to see Fuji. If you can't, maybe you see it during your flight to Seoul. I did a dwarf, saw the surrounding mountains, which are beautiful. I think we're going to see Fuji on our way to Osaka on the bullet train. Apparently, if you sit on the right, my son did some research. If you sit on the right side of the train, you go right by Fuji. So that would be pretty cool. Cynthia Rice, Fetterman will not win in either party in PA. I hope you're right. I really do, because I'm over it with him. I mean, he's just a disaster. And I was such an early supporter of his. I gave money to him early when he was still running against Connor Lamb. And I want my money back. Like, he's just a disaster and awful. So on that note, guys, we've been at this for about half an hour, and I don't want to just stop in and say hi because Michelle's been a little under the weather and I've been running around. My son's also a little under the weather, which is why neither of us has been around the last few days, but I am back, and I'll be back tomorrow with Cliff Schechter on Substack, and maybe even back here in fact, probably will be back here for sure. And then, as I said, Thursday, Pax Americana with Olga and me, and Friday, we're going to try to do a pre-tape of a show. And then while I am not here, I think Michelle's going to keep the Saturday show going. So please don't go anywhere. Like and subscribe, and have a great rest of the day. Go watch Jeopardy. And see you later. Bye, everybody.